Hello and welcome to my first video on Microsoft Excel training. So we're going to basically just go over um, shortcuts for the most part. I think learning some shortcuts off to start with is a good way because a lot of times people will be working with programs in general and have been worked with them for years, and then one day somebody will say, "Oh, did you know you could do this?" And then they'll say, "Oh, I've been doing it this way for that many years. How many hours could have been saved?" So we're going to start off. No matter what your level is with Excel, maybe you know some of these shortcuts, maybe you don't, and hopefully this will be helpful. So we'll just open up this intro book I put together. If you're a patron, you have access to it, so you can either follow along and do it as I'm going along, or you can check this out afterwards, download it, and do the exercises that I have put forth. So here are all of the shortcuts that I have listed out. These aren't all of the shortcuts that are available. These are what I typically use day to day when working with Excel workbooks. I find them to be useful, and they do save time for me. So if this is something that will be helpful for you, I'm glad I could share. Feel free, again, if you're a patron, to download this and have this as a quick reference. It might save you some Googling later on down the line. So, saving as, first of all, is one of the big things that I use for a shortcut. It saves me a few mouse clicks, and I can easily go into where I need to save it. In this case, what we're going to do, we're going to save this intro book. It's titled Intro Book. We're going to save this as original copy. So when I'm working with Excel files that come from other people, I tend to like to save an original copy just so I don't overwrite something that I shouldn't have overwritten, and I can compare changes maybe. So here's how we're going to do it here. We hit the F12 key. It's a function key up top on your keyboard. And then we've got an intro book. We're going to save that original excuse me, copy. Hit enter to save it. And then we've got the original copy. So this is our backup copy. And now we're going to save a working copy. So this is the copy that we're actually going to do work on. And if we blow up the workbook, it's not going to matter because we still have our original copy. So we hit F12 again, and we see that it's in the same folder. We'll just change this original to say working. Enter, saves it. Now we see we are in our working copy. So that's it. Saving as, pretty straightforward. F12 key. I like to use it a lot. Some people think you may as well just go File, Save As, walk through all that. I don't like to. Copying and pasting. So this is a huge thing, especially if you're working with a lot of redundant data, data that it's the same things over and over again, or maybe you're copying some formats. So copying and pasting is basically just copying a section and pasting another. So if we look at A, and we want to copy that and we want to put it down in this cell here, so we could just type A, or we could hit Control C and hit Control V to paste it, and we're good as gold. So let's say we didn't want to do that. Say we accidentally did that. We can hit Control Z and that undoes it, but we did want to do that. So if we hit Control Y, it puts it back. If we hit Escape, that's going to remove that dash line. So when we copy, we know that that cell is being selected to copy here because of that dash line that's going around it. If we wanted to put this in a bunch of different spots as well, if we hit Control V again, wherever we put it, we know that it's always going to paste that A because of that dash line going around it. It's the indicator. So, but we didn't want to do that. Again, Control Z undoes all of that work. So now let's see, let's put the B over there. So Control C, Control V. Now we want to copy the C. We're going to start on control or on the letter A. How we get over to the C, we could hit the arrow twice. We could just select C, but we want to practice using these shortcuts. So what we're going to do is we're going to hold down control, and then we're going to press the right arrow, because that's going to bring us to the end of a group. If we hit that again, it's skipping over to the end of whatever group it was. Or in this case, from the C to the D, it's going to the beginning. So hit over to the end of that group. We're going to grab the C. We're going to select on the C, and then let's move over to the D. And then let's move over to the F. So that's hopping over. Let's say we want to select that group. So if we hold down Control, Shift, and then hit the left arrow, we're going to select that whole group. If I'm at D and hit the right arrow, it's going to select all of those to the right of it. So we're back at the F, Control Shift L. Now if we want to cut this, it's Control X. So the difference between between cutting and copying is copying keeps that original value in the same spot. Cutting is going to move this. So once I go ahead and select here and paste it, it has moved the whole selection. And that is that. Let's go over to converting ranges. This is something, if you're working with tables a lot, this comes in handy. Rather than working with them as a range, which is just this, it's a group. Rather than working as a range, we can work with it as a table. I'm going to show you the differences real quick between working with it as a range and a table. Let's demonstrate. So if I wanted to take this column here, the H column, and I wanted to get rid of this column for whatever reason, I decided I don't need H's. I have to select that H, go down to the bottom. Let's do it how we learned it. Select that H, hit Control Shift down, and that selects that whole column. And now if I hit Control and then the minus sign, I get this pop-up box. How do I want to shift that? I want to shift it to the left, and that column's gone. Let's hit Control Z, bring that all back. So now if I want to do that with the H here, by looking at the column in the workbook, let's see the difference. If I hit Control minus sign, I don't get that pop-up box at all because it recognizes that it's a full column. We don't have to worry about where it's going to get shifted. We'll hit Control Z, bring that back. And let's do that with the rows, same thing. Let's get rid of the 16 row. Control Shift right. There. So Control Shift, shift the cells up this time. It's giving me that option. I'll hit OK. Everything's shifted up. Control Z, we'll do that there. Control Z. Alright, so now we've seen how we do that with a range. Let's convert it to a table. So in order to convert this to a table, we hit Control T. So if we look back at our useful shortcuts, you'll be able to see that there. My table does have headers. We're going to say that D, E, F, G, H, I are the headers. And now we see that it's been converted to a table. This looks different. You see it's formatted, and it acts differently than a range does. So I just think they're generally easier to work with. And as we get farther along in lessons, I can show you more on tables and why they're a lot easier to work with. But for now, we're just looking at how we're doing selections with it. So let's go back to that selecting the H row. So I can do this if I want to, or I can just select. If I see how this arrow, this cursor turns into a little black arrow, this is me selecting that whole row. Now when I hit the column. Now when I delete the column, Control minus sign, I don't get that second thing because it recognizes it again as a column, as its own contained element. Excuse me. So I'll Control Z, and we'll see that we can do the same thing with the rows. So if I want to do that with any of these rows, 16 like we did before, hit that delete, and we're good. So now let's say another thing about the table is we can filter pretty easily. So let's just take the H column, for example, and we'll say we only want the 19. Anything with a 19 in the H column. Select 19, and we only have one entry, so there. So now let's say we wanted to remove the filter. Control Shift L is another one of the keyboard shortcuts. You can look it up. Control Shift L, and the filters are gone. I don't have those arrows there anymore. If I want to bring them back, Control Shift L, and they're back. So that's a quick overview of some of the shortcuts that I like to use a lot. If you have any shortcuts that you feel you want to share, go ahead and post those on the community page. I'd love to hear from you. If you have any questions, specific shortcuts that you think would be helpful for you, feel free to ask. And thank you for watching. I hope you got something out of it, and we'll see you next time. Bye.